It's like I said, I was sort of having a conversation with this guy, and you know, the main questions I have about it is what problems is it actually sort of solving for, and who is it actually marketed to, and who's really getting value out of it, and how, and are those sort of areas big enough to sort of do something new and different, and sort
Well,
of
yeah, I mean, like for me, it's not that there's a specific problem that needs solving. It's more of an opportunity that might be available for the taking. And so it expands from, okay, if you were going to give your rules away as a free download anyway, like what is the monetary value of that rule set? Well, clearly it's nothing. The monetary value of that rule set in the context of a beautifully produced product, obviously that is different, and particularly if it's then got setting information around it, which is what, you know, either Gaslands or Hobgoblin would be. But then there's the opportunity to allow the community to keep pushing your product, which is what Friends successfully did in one regard. And I think that potentially an open gaming license would, you know, it would keep your game relevant for longer.
Yeah, I mean,
and I suppose that's the problem. It's like, how do you keep your game relevant without you doing all the work?
Yeah, no, like I said, I've often sort of wondered, like, you know, whether there should be engines for these sorts of games, like the way that there's, you know, the D20 engine and the Fate engine and the GURPS engine. All these things exist for RPGs, where tons of people use, you know, the D20 the D20 engine. Tons of people use the Fate engine, you know, without having anything to do with the, you know, because you can't copyright these things anyway. And so someone just comes in and goes, well, I'm using that engine, it works really nicely. And then everybody who likes that system knows that engine already. And it's kind of, I always thought it's weird that nothing like that has ever sort of has ever come about for Minis.
Right, there isn't a small number of well-recognized skirmish or army battle systems that are just open source.
And the ones that do sort of go, you know, sort of franchise out tend to be much more sort of in-house and controlled, like, as you know, like 7TV. It's got, you know, 7TV Pulp and Apocalypse and all these other ones where they basically go, okay, well, you know, the engine because it's the 7TV engine. Well, now it's like zombie apocalypse time, now it's sci-fi time, etc., etc. And there isn't a thing where you can sort of go, okay, well, I've got a new skirmish game, it's based on the, you know, whatever ATK system, right? So you know that system. Now let's get into the interesting bits.
Although actually, I think Warlord is doing kind of interesting work there as well, because like Warlord's army battle system is the same for all of its different historical periods. And then I was surprised when I picked up that what's that Mantic ship game that I just picked up, Armada. I picked it up because I wanted to look at the rules, but then I discovered that it's actually just the Black Seas rules. So it's like, it's the same engine that you know from Black Seas, but this time there's orcs in it. So that yeah, like there are places where it's happening, but it's not, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think
it's like, ubiquitous.
Like I said, and I think it's an interesting thing, and I think it's something that could be exciting, and it's just figuring out where the value and the value and the money is in doing the various different things. And
that's part of my fascination with it. It was like more convincingly profitable for that to be a thing.
Yeah, and it's one of these things which are all like sort of, well, what do you actually want? What does everybody want? Do we want, you know, and how much of a community can a given mini system sustain? You know, I mean, the thing about D&D and D&D is sort of the open license of it is that it can sustain a massive community. You know, and it can be self-sustaining and ongoing and work in that way. And the question is, do you need a certain size of ecosystem before you can pull that off? Yeah, honestly,
Or yeah,
I don't know.
or do you or do you not? And the point of open sourcing it is that you become, you become almost like evergreen. You're just like you become forever relevant because you're forever accessible.
Or or does the community fork off, decide that they've done something better with your system, and you become sort of immediately
Irrelevant in
irrelevant
your own playground.
in
Yeah.
your own world, which is also, I think, a risk of it, because you don't have control over it. You don't get to say, no, the thing that most people are doing with it isn't what I intended, isn't what it is. And there are people who sort of end up feeling like, oh well, this isn't that's not what I meant, that's not what you were meant to do, and you don't get to say that anymore. So I genuinely don't know. It's something I'm constantly sort
Well,
of
the way that you say that is
keeping an eye on.
you put out something that you feel is a great product and represents what you want to do, and then you fight in a competitive landscape, and you're a competitor in that landscape.
No, absolutely, and there is something very healthy and good and big-hearted in going, okay, I've created this world, now I'm going to choose to put
Now
myself
fight me to beat me at it.
Yeah, there is that thing of, yes, I've put in all this work, I've put in all this effort, I've created this thing. Now I'm going to put myself on a level footing with like the entire rest of the world. Everybody come up with knives. This will be fun. And I think that there's something wonderful about that. However, I understand not bloody wanting to do it at the same time. And it's like everything. It's just sort of figuring out what exactly you want.
Well, the other element of it, and this is again because I was reading that book about John Carmack and the Doom and Quake era. Like, John Carmack was belligerent about releasing every version of their software engines as an open source, but for them it was like, well, the last thing that we did is now open source. Like, I'm busy in reinventing the next amazing thing. So when Quake 3 comes out, it's going to have this incredible graphics engine that nobody else has got. You can have the Quake 2 one, like, more power to you, but like, I'm the innovator and the scientist, so I'm working on this new thing. And to a degree, like, I can kind of see the attraction of that, where it's like, you can have Gaslands or Hobgoblin because I'm working on, something new. Although actually that does bring, I think, a key weakness of, oh no, I suppose, so I was going to say you can't move the system forward too much because then it's incompatible with the previous stuff, which I think is a problem. But like, there's a version of Dungeons and Dragons that exists that's like first edition or whatever it is, and then there's a version of the open game license that exists for fifth edition, and you can kind of pick and choose. But yeah, you'd end up somewhat freezing your system.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is a curious thing. And like I say, it's, these things are all about sort of, I think the thing is, it's about figuring out what you want. And one of the things though about open license is that it feels like it has the option to be a sort of Pandora's box on that side of things, where it's like, I'm 90% sure this is what I want, but once I open the box,
that's it. It's permanently.
If I find out that it's the remaining 10%, oh well, I'm boned. That's me done.
Yeah.
So the thing, and then it's like, where you stand on how high that percentage needs to be before you unlatch the box, I think is an individual thing. And I think there are people out there who are like, you know what, 30 to 40% sure that this is what I want, and I'm fine cracking that thing open. And then there are other people going to be like, you know what, I'm not that excited by the thing that I might get out of this, unless it's like 95%, I'll just stick where I am. I'm kind of happy with a lot of the things that are going on. And like all these things, you've got to decide how unhappy you are with the status quo, and how much you want the thing that you think you're going to get from opening the box, and how likely you think you are to get the thing from opening the box. And those set of questions are going to tell you whether or not it's time to unleash the beast. And those are very personal things. And it's why a lot of the time I'm sort of sitting there sort of watching some people do these things, going like, okay, I wonder where this is going to go. I wonder how it's going to end up. I'm interested. I'm as interested to see people doing it as anything else at the moment. So,
right, what are we going to talk about?
Right, yeah, good question.